The first Harry Potter book came out on June 26, 1997, being an instant hit so popular that people were willing to wait in lines for hours on release day for their copies of each of the books in the series. With me being born in 2002, that means that I was approximately -6 years old when the first book came out. Despite this, the books were so culturally influential that they were still popular by the time that I was in grade school, with even me, a snot-eating kid at the time, completing the entire series. So what do you do when you have a beloved media franchise and want to take it to the next level? The first Harry Potter video game was released on March 18th, 2001, and was actually a new spin-off of the LEGO video game, LEGO Creator, a sandbox game where you can build with LEGO elements. Now I know I said that we were playing the first Harry Potter video game, but look at this. Does this really count?
I should think if you cast the blue fire on him 3 times, he'll panic and forget all about Harry's broomstick.
The game that we will actually be covering today is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or I guess if you're American, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, released on November 16th, 2001. So when you first start the game, it starts by giving you some exposition that you need to know to understand the main plot of the game. So to refresh your memory, Harry Potter gets left at the front door of the Dursleys, his abusive step-parents. One day, he gets an invitation to attend Hogwarts, School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Once Harry leaves home and goes to Hogwarts, he puts on the sorting hat and gets placed into Gryffindor. Now to say that this intro lacks detail is a bit of an understatement, as this 1-minute info dump is meant to cover the first 45 minutes of the movie. When you first enter this, beautiful looking game, you're instantly greeted by Albus Dumbledore, who talks about seemingly random stuff like,
"Now, Hogwarts is full of secrets, Harry, so search behind every door, but keep in mind, not all secrets are rewarding."
and that's it. After that, you are thrown into the game where you just walk around and try to figure out where you are supposed to head to next. Seriously, I am so lost. But after nearly 10 minutes of running around, I finally found where I was supposed to head to next. I find Ron Weasley informing me that
that slimy Slytherin Draco Malfoy ran through this door with an owl under his arm. I think it was your owl Hedwig. Let's go after him.
So when I find him, he says,
"Go home to your mother, Potter." "Oh, sorry. You don't have one, do you?"
Draco, that's kind of fucked up. Now this is the part of the game where it teaches you about its movement mechanics. So to complete this platforming section, you have the Herculean task of holding down the left analog stick, as jumping is automatic in this game. Also, I forgot to mention that to look around in this game, you don't use the right analog stick like games nowadays. You use the trigger buttons instead. Oh, and not only that, but back in the day, apparently the standard was inverted controls, so the controls actually look like this. Now reviewing the footage, I did check the settings for the game, and there actually was a setting to invert the already inverted controls, but apparently I just skipped over it. So for the rest of the game, I was playing on inverted controls, which I am just not used to. I encountered the ghost of Charlie Chaplin, who informs me that the triangle button is used to free look around, and that the X button casts a flipendo knockback jinx, which looks like this. Do some more puzzles using what I just learned, meet Neville, who tells me about stuff I already know, then use my flipendo knockback jinx to masterfully shoot down these floating books. After all that jazz, I finally free Hedwig, and then after leaving whatever I just came from, my owl randomly drops off a broomstick that I am apparently supposed to use for flying lessons. I have many questions, but no answers. Anyways, I go to my flying lessons where I learn flying by... Oh wait, that's the wrong footage, hold up. Anyway, I learned flying through using my broomstick to fly through these rings that appear out of thin air. An original minigame that I have never seen before in my life. And after acing my flying lessons, I meet Hermione, who informs me that the Charms class is about to start. So I rush over to Charms class and see a random kid standing there who tells me that I'm supposed to get to the class before the timer runs out. So apparently to get to my magic class on time, I need to complete the parkour section. Not only is this stupid because just to get to class I need to complete a parkour course, but I'm a wizard. I would at least get it if you were testing me on like my magic knowledge or something like that. Why am I being tested on how well I can run and jump as a wizard? That makes no sense. So once I am in Charms class, to learn a new spell, Wingardium Leviosa, I must study hard and play a minigame where I press these buttons that this white circle is flying over. So after successfully mastering that spell, Hedwig drops off a letter from Hagrid asking me to head outside the school to meet up with him. So I head over to the front door of the school where Malfoy is blocking my way, and I engage in this game's first boss fight. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this boss fight is pretty lame. Basically, Malfoy throws these things called wizard crackers, which are essentially just bombs at me, and I am supposed to just pick them up and throw them back at him. And after getting his HP low enough, he summons one of his goons to throw more crackers, where I do the same thing until his HP gets low enough again, where he summons another goon where I just do the same thing again. I mean, couldn't they have thought of a better first boss fight? Like, for a game about wizards and magic, I don't use magic a single time in this boss fight. So after beating him, he runs away and we get a little cutscene where we see these hourglasses filling up. So I haven't really mentioned this, but whenever you do a certain task like defeating an enemy or learning a spell successfully, you see a counter increasing representing the amount of house points you have, the same house points being represented by these hourglasses you see here. Anyways, I need to head over to my herbology class, and to do so, I again need to do a time challenge to get to class. Great, after I complete that very difficult challenge, I get to class, play another mini game where I learn a new spell,
Incendio!
in which I can use to burn stuff down. And holy crap, does this mini game get way more difficult later on for the wrong reasons. But as of now, it is pretty easy. Just click the buttons that the white circle goes over. After completing my lessons, I wander a bit and stumble onto the Quidditch training pitch, where I get to learn Quidditch. If you don't know what Quidditch is a team sport played while straddling broomsticks, in which goals are scored by throwing a ball through any of the 3 hoops fixed at either end of the field. Now, Quidditch in the movies looks like this, and the movies got so big that there is a real-life counterpart to Quidditch where people run around with sticks in between their legs to simulate the brooms. So I am kind of excited to see how Quidditch would be represented by this game, so let's find out. So apparently it's literally the same thing as the flying minigame. You just fly through these rings on a course until at the very end. The difference is that once you fly through enough rings, you get a simple small minigame where you just have to try to catch the snitch. So after that disappointment, I finally head over to the forest where I meet up with Hagrid, who tells me that he needs a fire seed and I need to go fetch it for him. Now Hagrid, I know we're cool and all, but why don't you get them yourself? Why are you asking a literal 11-year-old kid to walk into a forest by himself to get you something? Now I wander around for a bit because I have no idea where I am supposed to go, and while I was walking close to a wall and spamming buttons for fun, I accidentally opened a hidden wall where I once again meet Charlie Chaplin. I play a minigame where I collect some pink beans while dodging these other pink things, and for my troubles I get a Folio Magi card. Guys, in a few years this card is going to be like 1,000 gajillion dollars, trust me. I just need to get it PSA graded first. So after wandering around for a bit, not sure if I was going in the right direction or not, I apparently was going in the right direction as I stumbled upon the second boss fight by accident, a flying stone boar thingy. The boss fight was pretty easy, although at first I thought that I wasn't supposed to be in this location yet and that I had fought a boss that I wasn't supposed to fight yet. This was because I kept using my flippy something spell on the boar, but it wasn't working, so I assumed that I was supposed to learn a new spell that can beat it, but after trying it for a bit more, I just realized that the spell has a pretty shit targeting system, and that after a while some of my shots hit, and I just defeated it without a scratch. So after beating it, I keep trekking onwards and have to complete these puzzles, where I feed these pear-looking things candy bushes to make them fat enough to stuff them down these holes to make these floating thingies stronger. I have no idea what I just said. And then the next thing I have to do is do some parkour across this spooky looking lava. By the way, Harry Potter is at this point 11 years old. At the end of the parkour section, I finally find the fire seeds, but to collect them, I must cast the Incendio spell. And this is what I was talking about when I said that this minigame gets difficult. Not only do I think that this moves around faster, but the game feels like it's delayed because whenever I press the button, it just doesn't register, and this feels like dog shit. So this minigame took me way too many tries to complete. So after collecting the seeds, I have to walk all the way back to Hagrid. No teleporting cutscene or anything, just my legs and my feet. And I counted, this took around like 5 minutes to do. But hey, at least the fire seeds helped hatch this cutie patootie. You get a small cutscene indicating that a new path has opened up. Go through it and you get introduced to the Quidditch pitch. But that doesn't matter right now because Malfoy stole Neville's Remembrall. Whatever that is. So then you enter another boss fight, if you can even call this one, because all you do is just fly close enough to Malfoy while spamming the square button until his HP goes to 0. Give Neville back the Remembrall, and apparently just by holding it, he remembers that he left his toad Trevor near some plants that eat toads. Okay, so Neville might be kind of stupid, but wanna know what isn't stupid? Playing Quidditch, because Harry got chosen to play in the Quidditch match against Hufflepuff despite being a first year with 10 minutes of practice. I head over to the Quidditch pitch where I play Superman Quidditch and destroy Hufflepuff. And then I leave the pitch by myself despite the fact that the pitch was just full of players and spectators earlier and get greeted by Professor Snape. Snape confiscates my library book, making it float into God knows where, and a page falls out that makes this really loud sparkly noises.
As soon as my missing sloth brain is recovered, we'll start the first potions lesson.
And apparently he just doesn't notice? Apparently the map points out that there's apparently a forgotten area, despite the fact that this forgotten area is behind the door like 2 feet away from the Quidditch pitch. Say some magic words and then go through the door where I am supposed to find a sloth brain for Snape or something like that. Now quite frankly, this section is pretty short. You just walk a linear path, do your 2-second rhythm game, push a lever, open a door, walk another linear path, find a brain just chilling on a stump in the forest, and then backtrack all the way back to school. At this point in the game, instead of going where I was supposed to go, I decided to do a bit of exploration around the castle instead. And because I chose to do this, I finally collected all 50 out of 50 yellow beans. I should also mention what these beans are. So if you haven't noticed already, whenever I would play the game, there are actually these like little beans that are lying around that you can just pick up. There are 4 types, with each one representing one of the 4 different houses in Hogwarts. So once I give Fred and George my beans, they give me the password for that one painting I saw earlier. I tell the painting the password and unlock the Nimbus 2000, which in the books was the fastest broomstick in production at the time and the broomstick that Harry used when playing Quidditch. Now I presume that the broomstick will make me fly faster, but since I won't get to find out until I get to a part where I get to actually use it, I'll just move on with the story. I head over to Snape's potion class where I just press a sequence of buttons and then boom, I'm good. But then Snape tells me to
Fetch the jar of fireflies from the adjoining room,
in which I get attacked by a hooded figure where I fall into this dungeon looking thing with all these trolls walking around. Although dealing with the trolls is pretty easy, just throw the puffer thing when the trolls walk over the drain and boom, they I guess die. Once I leave the room, a kid above me tells me that his kitten is stuck around there somewhere, which is where I make a bit of a mistake. Whenever I play these type of games, I try to do the main objective last and explore every other path possible. Now I thought that finding the cat was the main objective, so I decided to go somewhere else instead. It was pretty simple. Do some platforming sections, steal a key from a sleeping troll, do some other random stuff, find a jar of fireflies, and go back to Snape. And oh wait, I was following the main objective this entire time. Snape kicks me out of his class and locks me out. Because of this, I can't finish that side mission where I'm supposed to save the cat. So I guess that poor kitten will be stuck in the sewers for the rest of its life. But who cares about the kitten? What actually sucked about what happened was, well, remember when I was talking about the beans? Well, I had actually found 69 out of 70 blue beans, and before I had gotten to this point, I spent quite a bit trying to find that last blue bean. Now, spoiler alert, for the rest of the game, I never found the last blue bean. And I suspect that that last blue bean I would have gotten from saving the kitten. So by making this mistake, I miss out on a collectible that I would have gotten from collecting all the blue beans, but that's just a theory. Okay, moving on, I head over to my next class, which is Defense Against the Dark Arts, where before I actually start learning, I have to complete another platforming section. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest, I might have failed this section the first time I did it because I spent too much time collecting the green beans. But once I beat the parkour, I do the rhythm game where I learn the vermicelli spell, which makes the invisible platforms visible again, a fitting spell for a class about defending against the dark arts. But the spell unlocks a previously inaccessible path that I need to go through to progress the story. I find the ghost of Charlie Chaplin again, and he informs me that someone is casting dark arts magic, and I need to dispel the 4 curses to unlock this door, represented by these 4 eyes. Now, to be honest, finding the 4 curses took me much longer than it should have, because I just got so lost throughout the entire thing. But don't worry about it, because I eventually found all 4 curses and successfully unlocked the door. And it just leads back to where I came from. You cannot make this shit up. This is so stupid. Charlie Chaplin is like,
Well done, Harry. You've dispelled all 4 curses. Whoever put them there really wants to stop students exploring the castle.
but the door the curse is locked literally just leads back to where I came from, which is a pathway that all students need to pass through just to get to their classes. So essentially, I just wasted like 20 minutes of my life just to open a door that was worth fuck all. But look on the bright side, I was able to find all of the green beans necessary. So I went to the painting and unlocked the Infinity Gauntlet. There is no way I am losing these Quidditch matches now. After becoming literally Thanos, I head over to my next class, Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall, in which I, surprise surprise, need to complete another platforming section, in which this time I was able to beat it just barely in the nick of time. Same old routine, play the same minigame, learn a new spell which is just another minigame, watch the hourglass fill up, and what the fuck is Slytherin doing? How are they winning? Anyways, I used the new spell I learned to get to the second floor, where Hedwig drops off a parcel for me, but then the rat bastard Peeves steals it from me.
It's Saber Potty Potter. I've got your parcel, Potter. Want it back, do eh?
Man, the fact that they were able to make this piece of shit so annoying, to be honest, deserves a bit of praise. To retrieve the parcel, I have to complete a race against him. A race in quotation marks. Okay, this section might be less race and more just another platform section. I have a sneaking suspicion that Peeves is always close to you and will always just lose to you as long as you get to the end. Also, this section is pretty boring. Like, most of the time you are just walking along a straight line with the occasional jumping and X buttoning. But hey, I got the parcel back and it contains an invisibility cloak, which to use I need to pick up invisibility tokens. Next up on the agenda, I head over to the Forbidden Corridor, where this ugly old guy tells me that I shouldn't be here, but being the Harry Potter, I decide to follow him in anyways. Yes sir, this is a stealth section, and all I have to do is get to the door without being spotted by the old guy or his cat.
Well.
Okay, let me try that again, but this time using the invisibility cloak that I literally just got 3 seconds ago. Through this, we catch the old guy, whose name is apparently Mr. Filch, collaborating with Professor Snape, who we learn might be planning something nefarious in the back. Complete a few more stealth sections, and at the end of it all, I stumble upon a room that contains a giant mirror. Apparently, the giant mirror is the mirror of Erised, which reflects the viewer's most desperate desires in their hearts, as we learn from Dumbledore, who appeared literally out of nowhere. Once that mini slideshow / cutscene ends, we go through a door and Ron is waiting for us, informing us that a huge troll is going crazy and has cornered Hermione in the girls' bathroom. I'm not gonna think about the continuity of what just happened in like the past 10 minutes, as trying to come up with an explanation as to how I went from trailing behind Professor Snape in the Forbidden Corridor to a huge troll wrecking the girls' bathroom is beyond me. Next thing you know, I am running away from a troll whilst, of course, collecting some red beans. Once I reach the end, I find Hermione hiding in the corner of the girls' bathroom, and boom, the giant troll burst in behind us and... Wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Didn't Ron literally just say that the troll had cornered Hermione in the girls' bathroom? But the troll was chasing me, so was Hermione not cornered in the bathroom? Once again, if I think about this too much, I'm probably just gonna go insane, so I'm just gonna stop thinking about it and just continue on. This leads to another boss fight where I am supposed to protect myself and Ron from whatever this troll is throwing at us, while Ron tries to bonk him on the head with his club. After we successfully beat up the giant troll, Hedwig drops off a letter informing us that the next Quidditch match is about to begin, ignoring the fact that we were about to get killed by a rampaging troll. But no worries, because of this, I will finally be able to test the Nimbus 2000 and the Infinity Gauntlet that I got from collecting some beans. Okay, to be honest, I'm not really sure how much faster this broomstick actually makes me, and the shitty controls might actually make it harder to control if it is even faster. Oh, and the Infinity Gauntlet? Apparently it protects me from bludgers, which are these glowing red balls that you see here. But the thing is, they barely even do anything because you rarely get hit by them in the first place. But whatever, I catch the snitch, win the game, and move on to the next section of the game where Hagrid tells me that Norbert ain't doing so hot, so we need to head over to Diagon Alley to grab some ingredients to prepare a tonic for him. Okay, now in my opinion, this is by far the worst section in the game. To start, you need to find the 3 ingredients for the tonic. 3 peacock feathers, 1 eagle owl feather, and 3 giant purple toad warts. And to get the money we need to buy these ingredients, we need to head over to the bank. So to collect the money required, I need to play 2 different minigames. The first minigame is pretty simple, just run around collecting these deeds whilst doing so on a slippery floor. However, the second minigame, that second minigame might as well have been created by Lucifer himself. Basically, it's a minecart section, where I can rotate the cart around to collect coins as seen in the footage. Now this section doesn't sound or seem too bad, but I'm going to list all the problems that make this section one of the worst things I've played in recent times. 1. The FPS while playing is actually pretty low, even if it isn't really apparent on the video, which makes it very hard to control the minecart. 2. There are indicators that show up to inform you that there's either an obstacle that is about to show up or that there are coins about to show up. But when you are spinning the cart around, the arrows for the indicator that show up might not be completely accurate. 3. Sometimes the cart is moving way too fast, so when the indicator does appear, you don't have enough time to react to it, resulting in you getting hit by an obstacle that makes you lose your coins or miss out on coins that you failed to pick up. 4. The amount of coins you need is shown in the top right, but to actually complete the minigame, you need to fill the bar up 3 times, and if you are short even just a little bit, you have to play the minigame all over again, collecting from 0 coins all the way back to 3 again. 5. The amount of coins you need to complete it is absurd. If you fail to pick up a few coins or get hit like once or twice, you probably will have to just restart. And finally, 6. Sometimes when you're trying to rotate the cart, it just doesn't rotate. It just doesn't work. This is especially apparent in parts of the track where the coins show up in like this vortex shape. All of this combined made this section infuriating, and it took me way too many tries to complete it. But hey, at least I got that out of the way. So once I obtained the money needed to buy the ingredients, I head over to one of the shops to purchase the first ingredient, the peacock feathers. But no, you can't just pay for the feather and get it like a normal store. you have to play another minigame. And this minigame is also terrible. Basically, you need to catch up to the peacock until this bar fills up. And each time it does, you get 1 feather. And you need to do this a total of 3 times. But guess what? You have a timer. And if you don't collect all 3 feathers within this time period, you have to start over and collect the 3 feathers all over again. And of course, the low FPS that I mentioned about earlier is even more painful in this minigame, as the peacock will often make sharp turns to juke you out, making it so that the bar decays and your feather collecting progress goes back to 0. I had to do this minigame for literally like 10 minutes before I succeeded, but once I did, I came to the harsh reality that once I had gotten the feather, I no longer had any money. Earlier, Hagrid mentioned that there were 3 coins: Canutes, Sickles, and Galleons. But when I did that shitty minecart minigame, I had only collected Canutes. So I need to do that minecart minigame 2 more times. So I went back to the bank, played that shitty minigame, failed another 1,000 times, then went to the owl store where I had to play another minigame to get the owl feather. Luckily, this time the minigame was nowhere near as hard as the other one, as all I needed to do was levitate the owl tree to the middle owl without the other owl snatching it. I was able to complete this minigame on my first try and successfully obtain the owl feather. But then I needed to go back to the bank again, play the shitty minigame again, and fail 1,000 times again before I went to the magical menagerie, where I had to play a minigame where I had to find a purple frog underneath some white boxes 3 times to obtain the warts. Now, this minigame might have been difficult had you had to determine which box the frog was under based off purely on sound, but I suspect that the devs realized that the audio just wasn't good enough to make this minigame doable. So the box that the frog is under just shakes violently, making it very clear where the frog is. But hey, after that peacock minigame, I ain't complaining. I returned to Hagrid's hut, where we feed Norbert the tonic and another cutscene slash slideshow thing plays. Basically, Hagrid doesn't want to part ways with Norbert, but since he is all grown up now, the kids convinced him to let him be free. We flew up to the nearest tower and freed Norbert, but Malfoy trapped us and we were caught by Professor McGonagall. For detention, we had to go to the Forbidden Forest to search for the wounded unicorn. Now, to be honest, I don't think this makes any sense. Like, for detention, why are we going to the Forbidden Forest? Like, forbidden is in the name, you know. But at this point, the story having holes in it is nothing really new, so here's the picture of a dog. To be honest, the Forbidden Forest section is pretty linear. All you gotta do is just walk along the path and do some magic rhythm games here and there. Although, I will say, this turtle took me way too long to figure out how I'm supposed to deal with him. At first, I thought that all I had to do was lead his fire to the part of the tree to burn it down, but that didn't work. But after a while, I realized that the best way to beat him was to wait for him to point his butt in the air, throw my blue magic at him, do that like 3 times, and once he dies, his corpse explodes, summoning a magic flame out of nowhere that burns a hole in the tree, opening up a new path. At the end of the path lies the hooded figure who had attacked us earlier, whom I presume is drinking the blood of the unicorn. The hooded guy stares at us menacingly, and we collapse due to his pure aura, and then another cutscene slideshow plays. We get saved by the centaur known as Firenze, who also explains to us that the unicorn blood can save someone who is on the brink of death, and we learn that the hooded figure was he who must not be named, Voldemort. We end up back at Hagrid's hut, where he teaches us how to use this owl flute thing, which we can use to put creatures to sleep. And of course, it's just another press the buttons in a sequence minigame. Now, I was gonna explore some more, as I had gathered all 100 red beans, and all I had to do was find where the painting was to unlock the collectible. But instead, I accidentally went to where I was supposed to go and ended up starting the next and final section of the game, which meant that I would never know what I could have gotten from collecting all the red beans. Although I was a bit tilted, I remembered what the other 2 collectibles were, and instantly stopped caring. So we walked through this hole in the wall and engaged in another boss fight, Fluffy the 3-headed Cerebus. Now, as menacing as this 3-headed dog looks, the fight is again not very difficult. All you gotta do is just play the flute minigame 1 time for each head, and put Fluffy to sleep. Once I sedate Fluffy, I have another boss fight immediately after. This tentacle vine monster thing. Now I will give the devs more credit this time, however, because this boss fight actually has a challenge, I guess, albeit it's still relatively easy. You just have to dodge the tentacle monster's attacks while launching charged magic attacks of your own. After taking the boss's health bar to 0, you can light it on fire using the Incendio spell, and then successfully beat the boss. You pass through this entrance and... oh boy, another broom flying minigame. Once all of that is behind me, the next minigame is probably my favorite out of all the minigames present in this game. It takes place on a chessboard, and you alternate turns between you and all the other pieces. The entire time the pieces will be trying to chase after you, but if any two pieces end up on the same square, they end up destroying each other. So the point of the game is to get all the pieces to destroy each other before any of them catch up to you. It is a surprisingly challenging minigame, although challenging in all the right ways. It requires a bit of planning ahead, which is not my strong suit. I even got a few game overs from this minigame. There are also an adequate number of levels for the minigame, which left me pretty satisfied overall. Although, I can't really say the same for what comes next. Basically, a giant troll is half asleep and it is walking along the path that you are walking, and your goal is to move all the objects out of the way so that the troll doesn't bump into them, wake up, and then just chase after you and eat you. Next things up is a boss fight against these knights that are being controlled by the hooded figure. To be honest, they aren't that hard to deal with. All you gotta do is just dodge their attacks while launching a charged attack of your own. At the final wave of knights, however, the hooded figure summons a giant knight, who is basically the same as all the other knights, just with a larger health bar. At this point, we learn that the hooded figure is actually Professor Quirrell, the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, who is following the orders of Voldemort. We enter the next room, which is the final boss fight of the game, a boss fight against Voldemort. And I just can't take it seriously. I mean, can you really blame me when he looks like this, and he sounds like this?
Hand over the stone.
To be honest, the final boss fight isn't that difficult, but it's really annoying, I'm not gonna lie. You have to dodge his magic attacks, and while he is casting his spells, you have to launch a spell at the pillar behind him, which breaks and then inflicts damage. The annoying part of the fight is that he will regularly bind you with vines from out of nowhere, and the fact that sometimes he won't position himself under a pillar, so you will have to wait another rotation before he decides to place himself underneath one. Once you get his health bar to around half, you move on to the second phase of the boss fight. Now, the first time I entered this phase, I died and game overed, which meant that I had to start over. Now, normally when you start over, you would think that you would just start over from the second phase, which is what modern games do nowadays. But in this game, however, I actually had to start over from the last boss fight, which was the fight against the knights, which is pretty annoying, I'm not gonna lie. But by the second time, I had understood the mechanics for the fight, which was low-key even easier than the first phase. All you have to do is position the mirror portal thing between you and Voldemort. Then when he stands still and casts a spell, you need to launch 2 magic attacks. One to activate the portal thingy, and the second to launch another attack that gets juiced up while passing through the mirror portal. Once his HP hits a certain threshold, around 1/3 left, you need to spam the square button until his HP bar goes to 0. And bam, that's the boss fight. After collapsing, Harry ends up at the infirmary where Dumbledore informs him that everything must remain the secret and that the stone had been destroyed. Harry then enters the Great Hall where he learns that Slytherin had won the House Cup, but Dumbledore pulls a fast one, awarding Harry 60 points, which pushes Gryffindor over the threshold for them to win the House Cup over Slytherin. So remember all those house points that we gathered from playing the game? I don't think they really mattered because everything was going to be scripted anyways. And that's the end of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone video game. Now, comparing the game to games nowadays, it obviously does not hold up. The controls are jank by today's standards, the graphics are super blocky, the story is nowhere comparable to the movies or the book, it's very easy to not know where to go in the game, and overall the game feels as if the Harry Potter aspect of it is tacked on afterwards, and the base gameplay mechanics don't feel as if it was made with a Harry Potter game in mind. And to be honest, because even when I compare it to the games that came around the same time, which is around 2001, there were some absolute masterpieces, many of which I have not played but have heard great things about, such as Conker's Bad Fur Day, GTA 3, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Halo Combat Evolved, Sonic Adventure 2, and Luigi's Mansion. As a kid, I would not have imagined purchasing this game over any of the other video games that I had just mentioned, as it just doesn't compare. All that aside though, it was still a fun experience with a charm that you just can't find in a lot of other games because of how jank it is. So overall, I rate it Birdie Bots Beans out of 10.